Welcome back to the stream. Today I'm going to be continuing with this medieval room I'm drawing for my game, Dungeon Marauder. And I think today I'm going to be focusing on a blocker in the room, a table. So kind of similar patterns with the wood that I've been drawing for the past couple of days. So let's get right into it. See, I'm prepping my workspace here, making sure everything's working. Yeah, so just to clarify, I'm talking about this piece right here. So this space, I know from my previous kind of game design tests in the game that I want to occupy that space with some sort of blocker that will not allow the player to pass through. So as you can see, the player could go this way and around this, but not in this space. So I thought, kind of keep the theme in here to put the table there. I've gathered a few references, and now I'm going to be, focusing on just drawing something in that space. So let's get to it. Alright. First thing is I'm gonna grab this color because I think it looks pretty close to what I'll probably go for. Maybe desaturate it a bit and make it slightly lighter, but also reduce the opacity, and then I'm gonna just plop a block of it here just so I don't lose the color, and then actually make this black just to kind of give me the silhouette of the space I'm trying to occupy, and reduce the opacity just so now I know how much space I have to work with, so I can actually plan the table itself. So what I'm gonna do is on this layer I'm going to be, maybe I should move my mouse so it's not in the middle of the composition. I'll move it to the side. Just in case you're new to this, what you're seeing is me drawing on the iPad, and I'm capturing that and showing the video of how I'm working and as I'm talking at the same time. And since there's the iPad aspect ratio is different than the default stream aspect ratio, and I'm also streaming at 1080p, so there's a little bit of extra room on the side, so I decided to put the web page for my Steam page for my game, so you have it there. You know what this is all focusing on. It's making content for Dungeon Marauder for my game, and you can wishlist it now on Steam. And that's all I'm gonna do in terms of self promoting. That's it for now, at least. All right, let's get to it. So I'm gonna start with just figuring out how wide I want this table to be. So I think I'll put the overall width in here to be kind of like that. I have to keep in mind that part of this needs to be the legs of the table, because this table's just a wood table, that kind of what you'd imagine a coffee table in modern days would look like. And to the to give this character's credit, he had some furniture around his room just to put things on. So I'm adding a bit of thickness that you would see from the side, and then I'll put some legs. Actually, this feels a little bit too thick, so I'll remove one layer of pixels, one row of pixels. That feels much better in terms of thickness compared to everything else. And it kind of feels like like a piece of wood that this thickness kind of represents the same amount of thickness that we have here. So it just echoes more of the design in the room. And then I'm gonna give it some very stubby legs as well. So with those, I'll need to go slightly darker. Put another layer underneath, and drop in some legs. So let's see, what if I go with just 2 really stubby legs? That might look good. We'll copy that, and I think I went a bit too dark, but we'll see in a moment. I can always recolor those, and actually I'll push them a little bit in. Am I not on the right layer? No, because I made 2 layers. So I'll put these a little bit to the side. And imagine there's actually, I'll put them on top of the table just so you can see them. But imagining there's another set of legs somewhere around here, right? But you don't see because of the table. So remove those, and then I also imagine there's, on these legs they're connected. I'm looking at a piece of reference that actually has that I really like. For this table, I think it's a modern table, but doesn't matter. It looks old enough. It has something like this happening, just a little piece of reinforcement between the legs, but I'm gonna put it. I think I'm gonna put them on top of it. So let's say something that goes about 2/3 of it, and it's kind of just because I want to add a little bit more detail. I'm gonna put something like that, like a little plank that holds the 2 of them together, and I imagine that this is nailed in somehow, so I'm going to add some extra nails afterwards as well. And at the same time, if you think about it, if these 2 are connected, maybe the the other 2 in the back here, I should choose a different color so you can see that. So put something like white. Okay, you can see that, and draw on top. So I imagine there's like another plank here, but also I want one to connect them like this, to connect the back legs to the front legs. So the way I'm gonna do that is I'm gonna go back to this layer. Yeah, that seems like the right choice. And choose, actually maybe the same color would work. Plop in a line there so it looks like it's part of the same wood, but then also a line that keeps going that way, and that would kind of suggest that that wood is receding and going backwards. And I think it could be slightly lighter. Let's give that a try. Yeah, I still want to have it so that it's darkened because it's underneath the table, so it would have some shadow from the table. But we can correct that later. And I imagine this part here, has a top to it as well, so might as well add that too. It's technically, like I said, it would be lighter because it's lit from the top, but because it's shadowed by the piece on top, it would be darker. And as I add the shadows in for the rest of the pieces, it'll probably look better. Now, as I'm looking at this, I kind of feel like the table's too tall. So what I'm gonna do is merge some layers because I know that I like this design so far, and I merged too many. Merge some layers here. This is part of the bookcase. I'm actually gonna hide this just so I don't accidentally work on it again. And now I know these 2 are the only ones in between the hidden layers. So that's the full table. So what I was gonna do is move this table down and chop off its legs a little bit. So first I'll make a selection, and let's see, if I remove 2 rows of pixels, that actually might look much better. And I'll move this down. It still blocks the entire space, and I can just give it some more depth here. And it almost looks a little bit more square anyway, so that's probably better. Cool. At the same time, as I'm looking at it, this kind of feels a little bit too thick still, so let's try and experiment and make that thinner. Because I do want it to look like slats of wood, and that's probably what I'm going to do next, actually. I am going to figure out what those flats, if you will, of wood, slabs of wood would look like. So I'll just plop a few in and see, you know, how thick would they be. Maybe a darker one. And then maybe a lighter one again. Don't want those to touch. Let's see. Yeah, I like that. Also, I want this to be slightly different color. There you go. And maybe not the same. How about even darker? I think that blends in too much with the back. That's too light. Okay, and now this I'll make slightly darker so that the whole piece of wood on top stick out a little bit more. And I'm probably going to do a little bit more of that with the self-shadowing anyway. Alright. Now, these pieces of wood, you know, since this is medieval times, I imagine they're being held together by another piece of wood that sits on top of them. So I'm going to draw something like that I figured would be on top of everything, holding them together. And this would have some thickness to it as well. I'll make that darker just so it sticks out. Same thing. Duplicate it and put it. I don't like that it's parallel to the legs, so I'm gonna offset it a little bit. Or maybe put it inwards. Yeah, I think that looks slightly better. Just, we don't want lines to be too perpendicular to each other. I do want them parallel though, so I want this to read as an isometric prop. Give it a little bit more depth. And I'm also, since I'm on this step, I will drop some shadow underneath them as well to... I'm putting it on top right now just so I can block it out, but then I'm going to move it underneath it and lower the opacity significantly. I didn't go all the way down here. There you go. Perfect. I'll merge that, but I won't merge it to the table yet, just because I want to add some highlights on the table as well before I start with those. So let's do a little bit of that. These are gonna be not too thought out. I'm just adding some highlights, and I'm gonna reduce the opacity significantly on those in a little bit. But then I'll add some edge highlights that will probably be stronger. And after that, I'll do some I got distracted. After that, I'll do some patterning on the wood itself. So let's reduce the opacity of that a little bit, just enough so it sticks out. Merge that, and let's add some corner highlights that I want, you know, really pale and, yeah, definitely very strong, and possibly echoed in here as well. We'll see, I might have to erase that if I don't like it. My hand is shaking a little bit, so I'm not drawing perfectly straight lines. I could use the line tool, which would probably be useful right here, so I don't keep making that mistake, but I don't want to switch to it just to switch back afterwards. And this edge would feel like it would have a lot more of that. Alright, let's see what that looks like if I tone it down a little bit. Yeah, much better. It feels to me like it's already starting to look like wood. I might not even have to do much more on the patterning, because I already like that it reads different than everything else, but it looks like it's made of similar wood. Let's see, and I want to merge that in. I want to add a bit of darkening on these, on the basically the depth of the pieces of wood that make the top of the table. I'll go back to the line tool like I was saying and make this a gradient. The last one should be lighter. Let's lower the opacity of that. That looks good. And now I want to add highlights for that too. Great. And let's add some subtle wood patterning that it will be different than what I've done before, because I think I'm gonna do some just kind of like wood grains that are not they're not similar to the wood graining on the other wood, just because I wanted to make it look like it's part of a different type of forest or whatever they used to make these. That went a little bit too far. It was actually already pretty low in opacity, or it matched the hue and value of what was already there. That's the reality. Okay, let's put the slabs back on top of it. Yeah, that's already starting to look the way I want it. I'm gonna put the similar pattern in here. It's unnoticeable, so I'm gonna go darker. Did I just go lighter? I think I did. Yeah, so I'll go darker with these. I actually don't know what type of wood I'm making here necessarily, but just have some references of what I want it to look like. So great. And let's do something similar for these. So I want to add maybe something even lighter, just because these are on top. Slightly different from each other. I think I merged too much. Yeah, and then similar to this, let's try some different shapes here. I didn't mean to surround the highlights like that, but I think it works. Almost looks like a Dalmatian. Alright, let's try that. And maybe add, just because these are on top and noticeable, I'll maybe add some highlights on them. Great. I think the one thing that sticks out a little bit is that these legs don't necessarily have too much detail going on them. So I'll just lighten up the sides a little bit where it shouldn't necessarily be in shadow or lit directly by the top. The top light, I meant. Yeah, just so it has a little bit of visual interest, and maybe just a bit more on the edge, as it would probably catch a glimpse of the highlight. There you go. Just some visual interest, and nobody's gonna notice. Alright, and now, see, I turned off this, didn't I? Yeah. I'm already liking what this is looking like. I might have to go darker with the entire thing just to bring it more in tune with everything else that's in the room. Let's put, before I do that, let's maybe attempt a darker shadow for the whole 2 pieces of wood on top, and a wider shadow as well. So let's give that a try, just out of curiosity. Switch this to the rectangle and give that a try. Yeah, that looks better. And the most important thing that I was talking about is to try to make everything darker and see what that looks like. So I'm just gonna cover everything, giving it a wash. Basically, it tones down the details, but which is why I always exaggerate the details. But it also brings them more in tune. It kind of solidifies a more monochromatic palette and brings it in tune with other things I have in the house, or in the room specifically. I made an involuntary square here. Alright, let's put that to 0 and then gradually see, like, I'm darkening it but also making it more monochromatic. I like that. Let's do it before and after. It's actually maybe too much now that I see the before. Yes, he does better. And you know, I'll fine tune, like I mentioned in the previous video. I'll fine tune the colors in on the computer. You know, probably in Photoshop after I've put together the whole room, just because then I need to get the values of everything closer together. But I also have the intent of reusing these props in several rooms, so they, you know, they kind of need to look like they're a collection and that work in this theme. And now I'm gonna hide this shadow piece, or not shadow, it's just a footprint, if you will. And I'm actually gonna put down a shadow for this object. I haven't done that for the 2 that I've done in the past couple of days, and I realized I need to go back and get some drop shadows on them happening as well. But for the stable, since I remembered, I might as well do this. So I think I want to do, you know, imagine the way that the light was over. Let's put it on the top layer so I can demonstrate that. The way that I was thinking is that, you know, the light would be somewhere here in the middle of the room, maybe like here, and then I'd have some lamp posts or candle holders, in like different corners. Since there's no like ceiling top light. This is medieval, so I still imagine the light would come from the top on the table, since it's above and to the right, and there would be, the shadow would be underneath it, and kind of cast in every direction. As I imagine, these have about the same intensity and about the same distance, but I should probably put the light sources first to figure that out. But since the whole environment is not dynamically lit or anything, I think this will work. All right. Similarly, I'm gonna drop some shadows for the legs. Am I drawing on the right layer? Let's verify that. Yes, I am. Okay. And maybe for these, I don't know, that might look weird actually. Maybe like that. And this piece. Let's see, what does that look like? Usually I put it around 60%. It's actually pretty strong. Maybe 40%. Yeah, I'll go with that for now. Alright. Well, I think the last thing that I want to do on this table is add some visual interest by putting in actually something that before I do that, I haven't even mentioned what I was going to do, but go back in here and add just a bit of shadowing underneath this wood, so it looks like it's sticking out a bit. And maybe just because I see it and it bothers me that it doesn't have just a little bit of highlight on that side of the wood plank. Yeah, okay, I like that more. Alright, now to finish my previous thought, I wanted to add some screws, or not, nails, not screws, nails, that would hold everything together. And I'm kind of randomly placing them, but as they would be placed, and I've switched up the color just to make it more interesting. There you go. I don't know if they would need one everywhere, but let's actually place them down and then I'll swap the colors. That made a mistake there. And there. And forgot about these. Let's see. Oh, and another one there. And what I can do now is, let's attempt to give them some shadow. I don't know how that's gonna look. That will probably look bad. Well, maybe I shouldn't dismiss it just yet. Let's give that a try. Because I think that actually adds some interesting pattern to the wood. Isn't, as if the wood is eroding around the nails, which would kind of make sense. And just add some more visual noise too. Alright, yeah, I like that. Just because, this guy seems intelligent, has books laying around, as if, books laying around is a sign of intelligence. I'll plop another set of books on this table too, just to have some prop sticking on it, and maybe put one in the bottom right corner here. But what I'll do different is that I'm actually gonna keep it with its pages open, so just block it out, figure out what color I want for that. Maybe like a dark red cover. Yeah, I like the way that looks, because you barely see it anyway, if the pages are open. And I'm actually gonna do my due diligence here and make it symmetrical. So let's count. Actually, I'm not gonna count it. I'm just gonna duplicate it. Move it. And it's on the edge. I don't like that. I'll move that over here. Okay, that looks better. What would happen if I do that? That kind of looks like a book. Maybe I round out all the corners. Let's see. This is kind of an experiment. I don't know if that will look good. Maybe if I make it longer. That might look better. Or maybe here it's just like that. Yeah, that actually looks better. It still looks a little too round, I think, in the bottom. So I'll maybe do that as well. Okay, yeah, that looks more like a book to me. And I want to add pages. There will be, I don't think that yellow, but let's see, less saturated. Let's give that a try. No, too bright, but might as well draw them now and then change the color. So I imagine it would be straight here. And then what if they touch the edge here? And then somehow darker in the middle. Oh, no, I just colored the whole thing. Actually, that looks better. Desaturate and go darker again. Okay, see, that looks more like pages to me. But now I'm gonna go even darker to make this middle part where they're like self-shadowing. And then just a little lighter to the sides of it. Well, a little bit lighter and lighter. Okay, almost like a gradient. Almost exactly like a gradient because it would, be the self-shadowing from the middle of the book. And similarly, maybe the edges here get that same treatment. Great, and I want a few highlights on it too. So I'm gonna add some highlights at the top. And maybe in the middle here. Great. And then I think the last thing that I want to add in it is a little bit of text. I'm not sure entirely how I'm going to do that, but let's give that a try. Pick up that color, make it darker. What does that look like? I could interpret that as text. Let's see. And I'm literally just dropping dots right now. Don't a plan here, just something that looks like text from really far away. Perfect. It almost looks like you should be picking that up, which I don't like, because you're not going to be able to. So I think now I'm going to do my usual trick to make things blend into the background, which is take the color from this wood, draw on top of this, and make it look more bland, to make it look like it's a baked-in prop that you can't touch. Gamify it, if you will, because there's only a select few list of props that you can interact with in the game, and they usually are very clear because they have visual effects on them and they shine, and they're like, hey, look over here, type of thing. I think part of the problem here is that the cover is really really dark, so let's see if I lighten that up a little bit. How would that look? Because I think if I do that, it will not stick out as much from the rest of the table. So let's lower the opacity on that. It still does, but maybe less so. Compared to that, that's better. Yeah, I think it still attracts too much attention to itself, but I think we'll leave it at that. It could just be that maybe I make this interactable. Now I'm giving myself more work to do, but maybe I make it interactable and it's just like a diary entry or something, which wouldn't be the worst idea. But one other thing that I want to do is add a little bit of shadow. That of how it's sitting on the table. Just drop that, just to kind of figure out what the color of that would be like, and then I'll correct. No, did I just undo? I guess I did. Yeah, just something very subtle. So I can bake it in. And maybe I'll leave it as a separate element. That wouldn't be bad. Just in case I decide to move it or reuse it or something. Which is probably something I should have done here as well, on these other props. But for now, I'll keep it a separate layer. What I could do is, like, I'm looking at these references, and one of them has a cool candle on it. It'd be great to maybe to put another light source here. And when I say here, I mean here. That would kind of brighten up, this area, which might be interesting. But if I do that kind of thing, I'll be doing it with a separate prop anyway, because I want to be able to put candles with an actual light in Unity, in the game engine, and be able to move it around so that I can light different environments the way I want to. But that's why I'll probably leave this area empty, and maybe here, just in case I want to put a light in those two. I probably wouldn't put it here because it would be right in the middle of the table. It would look weird. But if I put it here, a candle with the light, I think that would look very interesting. So I think I'm going to do that. I might try to draw something like that in the next video. I do have one candle that I've drawn before, so maybe I'll reuse that. But I'll probably leave that as a light source, like I mentioned. Cool, so that concludes this part. I think I'm also gonna spend a little bit more time on this area here. I think what I was going for initially with that is that it would be a bed. I have a few images as reference for what I'm gonna attempt with that, but I haven't really committed to anything. But I might start that. So for now, I'm just gonna exit this, so that's how Pixaki saves anything, because there's no save button really. But if you just exit out of the image, it saves it. So now you see it says 5:39 p.m., which is what it is in Pacific Standard right now. And then I go back in the image and I continue my drawing. So I'm gonna move this little guy to the side here, because I don't want him to be in front of the bed. And I'm not sure what this layer is. Let's see. Might not be anything. Well, I can't really tell if it's in the way. No, okay, that's empty. I'm gonna delete that. Those are props. Those are the books. Oh, so I did leave them a separate object. I couldn't even remember from yesterday. But I did leave them a separate object. Alright, and actually I'm gonna, since I'll be starting on a new prop, just to be able to save this video out and, you know, do preliminary planning for the next video. Let me actually find this. This dot is bothering me now, so I'm gonna need to find where it belongs. It's probably one of these pieces of furniture or the character. I will find you, you little dot. I found it. Okay, it was on that layer. Alright, as I was saying, since I'm done with, and there's a white dot here too. Since I'm done with this image, I'm gonna do the prep work to figure out what I want to do with the bed, collect some images, and I'll probably stream again in maybe 20 minutes or so. But for anyone who's watching this as a recording on YouTube or whatnot, thank you for watching, and I'll have another video up soon. Thank you, everyone. Don't forget to, one more update to my game, don't forget to check it out. It's available for wishlisting, and, you know, for just taking a look at it on Steam. You should be able to see it on your screen right now. But yeah, thanks and see you soon. Bye. And one more thing on your way out. If you enjoyed this type of content, go ahead and subscribe to my channel. There'll be more coming.